Welcome, welcome everybody. We're going to get started in a few minutes. You should have two screens pinned to you right now where you're seeing at the top view and a side view. And this is being live streamed on YouTube. Yes, it is. Wonderful. We'll just give it a few more minutes before we do the introduction. And you'll notice in the file that there is, in the chat box, you'll see that there is the recipe, so you can download that. And then feel free to chat during the webinar. And I have my lovely intern, Kate Francis, here who will help shout things out. Hi, welcome to Epicure Nutrition live video number 4, where we're going to be making a honey tofu. Oh, wait, let me try that again. Honey Sriracha tofu. Bentley should be quiet because he's got some sweet potato mixed in with his kibble, so that'll be good. And as I mentioned, today's intern is Kate Francis, and she's helping me out. This was a recipe that she picked, and it's absolutely fantastic. We made it the other day, made some changes, and we'll go along and you can follow along with us. And I just want to say welcome and let's get cooking. All right. So, you let me have the person. All right, fantastic. So we have our ingredients here. So we have the tofu. Let's take a minute to talk about the tofu. We have two different versions of it. This one, the one that's pointing up now, you can look at the texture of it and you'll see that it's rather closed and it's still on a whiter side. Where if you look at this one, you'll see it's a little bit more sponge-like. And even when you squeeze them, you can kind of see a little bit of the difference and how the one that's lighter in color is a little bit crumblier than the one that is a little yellower. Now, the reason is because this is just a fresh tofu that came out of the package. And what we did for about 30 minutes was put a pan on top of it with some weight, and it squeezed down. I think you can see it here. It squeezed down, and what it did is it released a lot of the water. So that's what we did for both of these, where we had the weight on there for about a half hour to get rid of most of the water. But the nice thing about this one is that it was previously frozen. I just take it in a package, throw it in the freezer, defrost it in the fridge for food safety. And then when it comes out, it's more like a sponge, and you can actually squeeze it and have the water come out without it falling apart to pieces like this one. So the texture changes as well. It becomes a little bit chewier and a little bit gummier. And I think it resembles more of a meat texture as much as tofu can than this one, which a lot of people don't like because they feel it's a little bit slimier. and this one definitely is not slimy. So we took the, I would use firm or extra firm or super firm tofu for this one. Get out as much water as you possibly can, and then we'll get to chopping it in a minute. I just wanted to have the tofu talk first. All right, now that we've talked tofu, we can carry on. Other ingredients include, we're going to stir fry the tofu with the red pepper. We are going to create a sauce. We toss the diced tofu in with oil and amino acids. We'll talk about the amino acids in a minute. We use cornstarch to kind of coat it at the end, and then we cook it with the pepper. And then while that's cooking, we'll make a sauce using the aminos, the sriracha, the honey that I pulled away. And then if you want it a little bit spicier, you can add some red pepper flakes. We found it to be spicy enough without the red pepper flakes. All right. So why don't we get started then, and we will cut the tofu. We talked about what all the ingredients are, so we'll cut the tofu. We'll get some of these things out of the way. I'm just gonna turn this ever so gently. I do apologize. I am working out of a Manhattan kitchen, although my Manhattan kitchen is a pretty darn big Manhattan kitchen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tofu and cut it in about 1/2-inch pieces. Your thumb is about 1 inch, I believe. So we'll do about half of that. Cut this in thirds. Go to the side. You want to make sure you're using your cutting techniques where right now I'm doing the tunnel, and I'm putting the knife in between and holding it to make sure it stays in place and doesn't slip. And then when I go this way, I'm going to use the bear claw. And so put the knife against my knuckles and go down, and use my knuckles as a guide with fingertips bent behind, so I'm not going to worry about cutting my fingertips off. I did have an aunt and uncle that did have missing fingertips. Both of them on the same hand, they were married, but that was from working in a factory, not from cutting food. So once again, tunnel. We're going to cut in threes. These are each half blocks. I highly recommend using the frozen tofu. I found that it made a much better texture than just right out of the package. However, it doesn't, if you're constrained with time, using it out of the package is just fine. So we've got the tofu chopped up in about 1/2-inch squares or cubes. And then I'm just going to put this aside for a minute and make the sauce. Let me try that again. So what I'm going to do is, you can pat the tofu dry if you want to. If you drain it enough, you don't really have to. I'm going to take the cooking oil, which was 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. And the recipe, if you've downloaded it already, you'll see that it had the amino acids divided. And so I have 1 tablespoon in each. And you're probably wondering, what the heck are amino acids? The one that I tend to use is the Bragg's amino acids, which you can see there. There are also coconut amino acids. This one is still made out of soy. Obviously, the coconut amino acids are made out of coconut. And what's nice about these is that they don't have any sodium in them. Oh, actually, they do have a little bit of sodium, 15%, but that's way less than even a low sodium soy sauce. So I recommend using the amino acids over soy sauce for less sodium. So I'm going to add 1 of the tablespoons of the amino acids. And I'm just going to whisk it together. Just to combine them. And then what I'm going to do is add the tofu in there. New cutting board. I absolutely love it. Look how well it just bends right in there. And I'm just going to lightly toss, especially if you're using packaged tofu that you didn't freeze. It crumbles and falls apart real easily. So you want to be gentle. We just want to coat it with a bit of the amino acids and oil mixture, because we're not going to really add much oil when we're cooking it. And then a little bit at a time, you want to add the cornstarch, flour, or even a little bit of arrowroot, because what that's going to do is that's going to put a little bit of a coating on the tofu, which will help make it a little bit crispier. We are using 6 tablespoons. You can use as many or as little as you like. What's helpful is about adding a little bit at a time is that it doesn't clump up as much. And sprinkling it over. And if it looks well coated without using all of it, then that's okay too. You don't have to use it all. All right. I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. So my tofu is ready to go in the pan. I'm just putting it aside. Normally, you'd want to use different cutting boards for your proteins and vegetables, especially if you're dealing with, I should say, if you're dealing with animal proteins, because it could contaminate. So you'd want different cutting boards, or cut your vegetables first, then cut your protein. Since this is tofu and it's a plant-based protein, I'm not too worried about any kind of cross-contamination. So either use colored cutting boards, one color for animal protein, one color for vegetables, or make sure you cut your vegetables first or wash in between. So I'm just going to slice down. Once again, you see the tunnel. Pull the knife out. And then I'm just going to pull the seeds out. And if you can pull most of them out. And then what I tend to do is a quick little rinse. So I'll be back in 1 second. Because that gets a little bit more of the seeds out. The seeds are not necessarily harmful to eat. And what you can do with those seeds is you can actually put them in some dirt and grow your own peppers. I've got some going now from a recipe we did, a recipe I did a little while ago. I find it easier to cut on this side versus the outside, because the outside tends to be a little bit slipperier. And remember, the most dangerous knife is a dull knife. So you want to have a sharper knife. What you can do is cut it so you're working with smaller pieces, and you want to remember to still keep as much of the bare claw as you can. And if you're slicing it, you can do a little bit of a rocking motion with your knife, and that helps make sure that it goes all the way through. And as you can see, I'm using my knuckles as a guide and not lifting the knife up so high that I'm going to cut my knuckles. I'm going to tunnel it there. If you want them cooked a little bit more, I would say cut them thinly. If you want them a little bit crunchier, then you can make them a little bit thicker. You can just cut further away. I know you're actually seeing something fully cut. Woohoo! You can use 1 pepper, 2 peppers. Just adds a little bit more Adds a little bit more vegetables to it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over the pan. Now we do have oil already on the tofu with the mix, but I'm going to spray it with a little bit of oil. I'm using avocado oil because it works well at high temperatures. You can also use something like peanut oil because that also works at high temperatures. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to put it on a medium heat. Just wait for it to get hot. And meanwhile, what you can do is you can make the sauce. Well, we'll make the sauce once we start cooking it. So we'll get this to heat up in a minute. And a good way to test if it's heated or not is by putting a little drip of water on there. So we'll give it a minute or so. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll be able to respond to that. Drip a little bit of water in there. Nope, not hot enough yet. Should have had the pan preheated, I guess. Woof. We can see it starting to bubble. And I wish everybody a happy holiday season, whether your holiday is already passed or if it's coming up. And then I want to let you know we are still on for the first. Oop, I can hear it sizzling. We're still on for the first Tuesday in January. We're going to talk about seasonal eating for the winter and about those SMART goals again to make sure we have them for the new year. I can hear it bubbling. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the tofu. All right, and then I'm going to add the peppers. And then we let it cook without disturbing it for about 4 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes if you're using the frozen tofu. And if you're not using the frozen tofu, I would cook it a little bit longer. And right here, we've got a little bit of a mix, so you'll see what it looks like when we start to turn it. Now we're going to have some magic going on. All right, I'm going to pull that away for a second. And what I'm going to do is make the sauce. So we're going to pretend that that's off there cooking. And we're going to make our sauce. The onion and the sesame seeds are for garnishes. So we'll get back to that in a minute. All right, so we've got our bowl to make our sauce. What we're going to do is put in 4 tablespoons of Sriracha. Any brand will do. And then we put the other tablespoon of aminos. And then we add 4 tablespoons of honey. You can use less honey. It'll just make it a little bit spicier, or you can use less sriracha as well. You can add more aminos instead. All right. So now what we do is we whisk it together. Doesn't take much to whisk the honey, surprisingly. And it's up to you if you want to add the red pepper flakes now, or you can even put them as a garnish. We were fine with it when we tested it out this weekend without the red pepper flakes, so I'm not going to add those. So sauce is made while that's cooking for the 4 minutes. And then we're going to just put the sauce aside. And then we are magically going to have some tofu, voila, I know, magic, isn't it? That has cooked already for the 4 minutes on the one side. And you can see that it's gotten a little crispy here. I don't know if you can see the difference. I'll try to bring them up for you. And we're experimenting with different ways to best flip the tofu. So if you take a look here, you can see the two different colors of the tofu. This one hasn't been crisped yet. And this one, because of the little bit of cornstarch, or if you use, like I said, the arrowroot or the regular flour, it helps put a little bit of a coating on it. So then once it's cooked on the one side, you turn it over. You can use tongs, which we found to be a little bit tedious because you kind of had to do one at a time and it took a while. We found that a fork was easy to do. And you can flip them over because you want to get at least two sides crispy. So you just let it cook, let it cook. We've got the holidays coming up. And remember, sugar is not a no, but you want to watch your added sugar because it just really adds up. It leads to inflammation, leads to weight gain, which then leads to more inflammation. But enjoy the holidays and have a little bit. The rule of thumb is 3 bites is good. The first bite is amazing. You got to have one in the middle, and then you savor the last bite. So you can keep that in mind if you're trying to watch how much sugar or fatty foods you eat during the holiday season. And be safe going out there and traveling if you are. You know it's all over the news, and we just want you to be safe. And back to visit us here in January. Here it's sizzling. So at this point, what you can do is you can just let it cook on the other side for like another 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or after every couple of minutes, you can keep on turning it to get more sides cooked, up to you. I found it easier to play with the peppers using this to just kind of toss them around. Let this cook for a few more minutes. And we have it on a medium heat. You can always go a little bit hotter, a little medium hot, medium hot, medium high. It's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. Oh my. And one of the things that's important is olive oil is good if you're sauteing because it has a lower smoke point. And once you go above the recommended smoke, the smoke point of the oil, it starts to turn and you can kind of create a few more free radicals in there, and you don't need any more free radicals in your body. Then you'll need to have more fruits and vegetables with all the antioxidants. And look, we got those lovely red antioxidants going on here. You can use green peppers, you can use yellow peppers, you can use purple peppers. It's pretty open to what kind of peppers you can use. You can make a whole colorful array of them. You can slice them any way that you want. I think we've got a couple more minutes for cooking. You can add other vegetables in here too. One of the things that I like is broccoli, which is your highest protein per cup vegetable. What I like about broccoli is that it has all those little nooks and crannies inside the heads with the little flowers, and then the sauce just goes right in there. And, oh, just absolutely love it. And then this is an easy way to make Chinese type food at home without all of the sodium and all of the oil that you can tend to get when you order out. All right. So to me, it's nice and sizzling. It's cooking. We've had it in there for about 10 minutes. So now all you simply do is you want to lower the temperature now to more of a medium low heat. And then we're going to pour over the sauce, equally distribute it. Hear that sizzling. And then I'm just going to toss it around so everything gets coated, and we're going to cook it until it gets a little thick and sticky. Now, and that's where also the cornstarch, the arrowroot, or the flour helps, because those, with it being the coating on the outside of the tofu, it'll also help thicken the sauce as it heats up. Something you can do if you didn't want to use so much honey and you wanted to go with a little bit more of a natural sugar instead of all that added sugar, you could do something like adding crushed pineapple or diced pineapple, because that would add some sweetness to it. You could probably do a little bit of mango puree and those diced mango, and those flavors would go really well with this type of dish, because it's nice to have the sweet to counteract the spiciness of the sriracha. And you're actually going to watch this one being cooked to completion. So you want to cook it for about another 2 minutes until the glaze gets a little bit sticky. If you're using a little bit more glaze, it might take a little bit longer, and you can also just turn the temperature back up to more of a medium heat to make it happen a little bit faster. All right, while this is cooking, does anybody have any questions? You're all quiet tonight. If you'd like to, in the chat box, it would be absolutely amazing if you could put in some suggestions of what you would like for upcoming cooking demos. The cooking demos started because in the surveys that I gave at the end, which I don't have one for today, sorry about that, people mentioned they wanted cooking demos. So now we've got the cooking demos. Is there anything you'd like to see cooked? The reason that Kate Francis chose the tofu dish for the cooking demo is because she felt that a lot of people find cooking with tofu to be daunting and not understanding how to fully cook with tofu. And that's why we're doing this recipe today. And as you can see, cooking tofu is not difficult. You can see the difference in the pan actually between the pieces that weren't frozen, like this one over here, versus the ones that were, just the way that they're holding their shape better. Few more minutes. And even at this stage, if you did put too much sauce in there and didn't have enough other things in there, you can add a little bit more cornstarch flour at this stage and it'll also work. I think that looks pretty good. And the more you let it set, the more it'll congeal a little bit as well. I'm going to take some and plate it up. You know what we gotta do now. You can make this as an entree, you can make it as an appetizer. One of the things about making it as an entree, the way that I would bulk it up is by adding more vegetables to it. And you can always make more sauce. Now at this point, what it's great to top with is some green onion, some scallions. And you can top it with some sesame seeds. And if you can actually even take some and sprinkle some on the side as a little bit of an additional garnish, or put some parsley there, or whatever it might be.
We can't hear you if you. No, we can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me, but we can't hear you.
You good, Scott?
Yes, now you're echoing now, but we can hear you.
All right, well, we're gonna echo for a moment here, here. And I'm just gonna say, that's vegetarian with Epicure nutrition. Woohoo! Really good. All right, I'm going to mute this one. Well, actually, I can just pull this one up now. You can shut your volume off. Hope you enjoyed that recipe. I certainly enjoyed eating it. And I look forward for you trying it at home. Please feel free to unmute yourself, or do I have to ask you all to unmute?
Somebody asked if you have any substitutes for Sriracha.
Somebody has what?
Somebody asked in the comments if you have any substitute for Sriracha.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We do see the comments now. So, substitutes for Sriracha. If you're looking for something with no spice, you could probably use a little bit of chili oil. I'm sorry, that would still have spice, the chili oil. You would get a completely different flavor if you use something like hoisin sauce or a plum sauce. Those would still, and those already have added sugar in them. So I would probably reduce the amount of honey that I would use. You could use chili paste, but that's probably going to be pretty spicy. So it depends a little bit on what your goal is. If your goal is for no spice, then I would go with like a plum or a hoisin, but then I would eliminate the honey. Or you could go with just a chili paste with the honey and then maybe add some ketchup to it. Because that would kind of, I have a lot of spices. What else? What did the meeting? Close the chat. There we go. Any suggestions for you this month? Then, folks, I want to thank you so much for taking the time on this week of Christmas for many of us to spend this Tuesday with me and with Kate Francis. Can I show you? She said, no, I can't show her. She's walking away. So it'll just be me. And then little Bentley Boo's eating his food, and we tried some pajamas on him and he wasn't too keen on them. So you'll have to wait to see Bentley Boo next time when we talk about goal setting and what's in season for the winter harvest. Thank you very much and have yourself a wonderful, wonderful new year. And I look forward to seeing you on the other end. Bye-bye.